Well, up here in Canada, we finally finished with the Humboldt trial. Now, just a recap for some of you guys that aren't familiar with that case. I've been talking about it for the last year, and it's been a year. Last April, a transport driver with a loaded set of B trains ran through a stop sign, and a bus T-boned the truck. Completely the driver's fault. 16 people were killed, 13 more were injured. The truck driver was charged with 29 different counts of dangerous driving, some of them causing death, some of them causing injury. So finally, after almost a year, they've gone to trial and they've sentenced this guy. Now, just to go right to the sentence, he got 8 years in prison, and then he's being deported immediately after he's released from prison. So this case has been a tough case, and I wouldn't envy any judge that had to try a case like this. There were all sorts of unusual circumstances. So the sentence had to reflect that. This is something the judge had to take into account. And she noted in her statement that Sidhu, the driver, Sidhu's blameworthiness was very high in this case. There was just no doubt it was anybody else's fault but the truck drivers. On the other hand, he fully admitted guilt, he pleaded guilty, he was obviously remorseful. And he gets points for that, basically, is the best way to say it. When she's considering the sentence, he gets points for that, as to how seriously she's going to sentence this guy. Now, something else that's interesting is what the judge does is look for similar cases that have already taken place in Canada and look for similar circumstances and tries to base her sentence on previous sentences that have been in similar cases to this. So, interestingly enough, the most serious case she finds that's close to this is a guy that's killed 4 people, a truck driver, that killed 4 people and injured 11 others on the 401 a few years ago. This guy's name is Mohinder Singh Sani. She looked at his sentence. He got 6 years, and there was even more death involved in Sidhu's. So he got 8 years plus deportation after his sentence is fulfilled. Now, someone pointed out to me when they wrote in earlier, they said, in Canada, 8 years means 4 years in prison and 4 years out for good behavior, and that's all true too. So there are different ways to look at that. You can think, well, I guess the sooner he gets out and the sooner he gets deported, it'll save some taxpayers some money, and I'm all for that. I've been following this trial pretty closely for a year now, and I was curious to see how I would feel when I finally heard the sentence, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't envy the judge having to make a decision like this. So I was curious to see what she would do, how she would handle it. And I heard the sentence. I heard 8 years in prison and then deportation after that. And I had to sit back in my chair and think about this. And I think, well, am I satisfied with that? Was this a fair sentence? Did he get off too light? Is it too severe a sentence? I wasn't sure how I was going to react. And at the end of the day, when I sat back and I thought about it, how I felt about the sentence, all I could feel was sadness and a little depression, frankly. This was a terrible, terrible case. It shouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't wish this on any driver. And that led me to the thought that here's a case, a situation that you guys need to think about every time you get behind the wheel and every time you go to do something that will take away from your focus on what you're doing and where you're going. This was a case, a severe case, of distracted driving. It's as simple as that. And look at what's happened because of Sidhu's distraction. You guys need to think about this every time you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, and if you're going to be drawn away, your attention drawn away to something else, think about this case. You wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy to cause this kind of death and mayhem. This is a serious, serious lesson for all drivers, not just truck drivers in Canada. All drivers in Canada, put down the cell phones, forget about anything else that distracts you from the drive, because you would never, never want to cause a situation like this. It's been an awful thing. Stay safe out there, drivers. Keep focused. Keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you on the back haul.